So just to get an idea, the theme of the evening is the Good2Go Award, which has been around for about a year. It's gone through a pilot, which is a testing phase where we had some of our providers, some of our clubs, and the training centre ourselves here in Dublin, to run as a test to see if it was needed any tweaks or anything else before it launched. But realistically, it was as designed. It was pretty successful. So we decided to launch at the beginning of this year. As part of the as part of the winter series, we decided to give people an opportunity to just telling people what it's about, what the ethos and the spirit of the award is, and then from that point on, then we will send it out there and people can use it and deliver it. So just to give you a quick outline, this is an award that's focused on creating an enjoyable paddle sports experience for anyone. The aims of the awards are to highlight the benefits of paddle sports, and not just the technical aspect or not just the competence aspect. Also, it's there to develop an award that doesn't focus on technical skills or technical skills acquisition. So it's not necessarily like some of the other awards which we have, which will be standards of skill or technique or a stroke that has to be met. And this was designed to kind of widen the look of the benefit on the award. And then the last part was to create an award that's adaptable, learner-centered, and achievable. A large part of what we're trying to do with some of our award scheme is to try to humanize the awards in general, rather than being just focused solely on award schemes that are measurement of skill or measurement of competency, that there tends to be a little bit of a wider experience. And one of the examples of that is the sea kayaking skills awards that were recently launched. Well, actually, last April they were launched. Level 1 to 4, and 5 is in the works. And the idea of them was to have an option where they were a little bit broader in what they chose to focus on, but also they weren't necessarily all assessed on a single day as a cumulative assessment. That there was more of a kind of a formative version across the time. So you could basically go out and paddle with instructors, and as you go along, be ticked off for different skills that were observed. So it wasn't all one big part of the assessment at the end of the day. And one of the things that also came from that is that there was a demand for a program that could be designed for multiple uses, for multiple groups, for multiple kind of backgrounds and needs, that wasn't just about forward paddle, reverse sweep, emergency stop, low brace, those kind of things. There could be a little bit of a wider selection. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in and we're going to look at the actual handbook, which is what we designed for the instructors who will be delivering this. And this is an award that can be delivered by any instructor. Once they're signed up with us to deliver the award, then they can deliver it. And I'll explain that now as we go through the award. So if you want to share my screen, so hopefully you should be able to see just the Good2Go Participation Award Award. You might see my face up in the top right-hand corner. So just to give you a quick run through, this is going to be a PDF document. We're going to scroll down. As we go down through, we're going to have a look at each part. I'll talk through a little bit of the information, and then as people go along, as I said, if you feel like asking a question, just pop it into the Q&A and we can take it from there. Okay, so first up, we have the logo, Good2Go. It's a paddle sport participation award. It's not necessarily about the strict design or structure of skills and competencies. There's a lot more to it in terms of just being about the getting involved. So you'll see here, just up the top, you'll see, it's going to hide the video panel. Okay. So you're going to be able to see that the contents page has just got the award outline, the rationale, then you have the modules, then you have modules continued, and then you have the support, the admin of the actual recording of the certs as well. And then you'll also have the a little bit of resources and training workshops which we can use as well. So the award outline, as I said before, is to focus on creating enjoyable paddle sports experience. To develop an award that highlights the benefits of paddle sports. To develop an award that doesn't focus on technical acquisition, and to create an award that's adaptable, learner-centered, and achievable. So the rationale is that this over-reliance on technical acquisition may not lead to people sticking with paddle sports. Sometimes people found that if they weren't achieving a certain level or they weren't progressing, that they kind of lost interest in the sport or gave up because they didn't get to where they thought they were going to be. So the idea is that the old linear system needed to have something that was an option that people, if they wanted to design their own program or set their own goals, that they could do. So there's a certain user groups or individuals that may have found the old system very difficult to use. So we're looking to have a system that people can engage in sport in whichever way they want to, and foster that kind of love for paddle sports, but also design in some elements that might be usable to them. For example, if you're looking for people to focus a little bit more on nature or well-being or mental health, or else they're looking to do something that's a little bit more around water confidence. Because again, working with groups over the years, sometimes the barrier to participation with paddle sports could be just about the comfort in the water and having that water confidence. So a lot of the time, that if that's a goal quite early on, you can get people to have that built in and actually get some recognition for that achievement for them, which could be quite significant. So who can run this award? Any Canoeing Ireland qualified and valid instructor can run that award. And if they adhere to the scope of their qualification, only operate in the environment they're qualified to do so. So you could, if you're a level 2 instructor, you could run this on flat water. If you're a level 3 instructor and you have a group that wants to incorporate this into maybe moving water, then you can do that as well. So that's not a problem. So how do participants achieve the certification? This is where it's kind of the most adaptable or the most flexible. There are some certain headings, so there that we'll show you now in a minute. And what the idea is, it's a collaborative approach for instructors to sit down with the participants. And usually this means that the instructor would probably either know or at least be able to have that time to have that space to discuss with the participants what it is they'd like to achieve themselves. So the old award system was very much, this is what you need to achieve, this is the level that it's at. And then this new award is focused on the learner or the participant sets underneath the 6 headings what it is that they'd like to achieve within that time frame. So the interaction between the instructor and the participant is kind of important. So you may need to facilitate that kind of goal setting session at the beginning of this course. And that might be before the first course. It could be online like this, or it could be facilitated maybe with the group, or if the group has leaders external to the instructor, that could be something else. So this award should be an individualistic award. The actual group can have their own goals, but also individuals can actually, if you wanted to, if you had the time, you can also tailor this to the individual. So one person in the group really wants to deal with water confidence. Another person in the group really wants to use the paddling as a way of relaxing and calming and maybe, processing something and dealing with that. So the idea of the award is that it can be flexible and designed by the instructor, but with the group and the group leading that goal setting experience. So just to move on, you can certify for one module or all 6. So this is dependent on an individual's engagement or need in the program. The instructor signs off on the relevant modules for the individual when issuing the certification. The instructor should ensure that they have aligned and met all the general aims in the module before signing off the module for the person. So somebody could, if they wanted to, just do one, and they would still get the award, a participation award for that. If they wanted to design multiple outcomes or aims for themselves within it, they can as well. So then they can have, if they wanted to, they can continue on the award to different places and be transferred to different instructors. So they've set their own goals and they have their cert, which is kind of a cert with a logbook on the back. If you can get that idea, they can bring a copy of the cert to get signed off, which you can show the progress so far. So it can again be not a terminal thing of reaching a particular goal, but along the way they can get parts signed off, and then one day it's just complete. So the flexibility for the instructors or the club, the provider, to actually facilitate that, it means that it's truly just it's as you would want to design it for yourself. So in the modules, there are 6 modules that the groups together can to group together that can general aims that can be undertaken either as a single or as all 6. So they're paddle sports fundamentals, which is about skills and kind of getting progression and acquisition of the fundamentals of the craft that they're in. You've got water confidence, which we talked about earlier on, in terms of that kind of sense of being okay and building up confidence in and around water. You have safety, which can be quite a useful thing. It can be traditional kayaking safety. You can bring in other things they might be learning from other national governing bodies or other like our Water Safety Council these kind of organizations that can also work with you if you're in a community environment where you have other agencies that can come in and help out. You've also got wellbeing, which will go through that in a well, which can be also how they might use the outdoors or how they might use paddle sports as a tool for that. The environment, both as a custodian of the environment, but also learning more about it, and then adventure learning. The idea that by challenging yourself to do something that you may not have thought you're capable of doing, that you kind of will grow as a person, and that you're in that a space where that kind of learning then can be transferred back to your everyday life. So what we're going to do is just after we've gone through those 6 ones, we're going to look through some of the aims individually. So I'm just going to go through here. So just for the paddle sports fundamentals, so develop practical elements of paddle sports craft movement. So you're just looking for them to be able to effectively move the craft around. There's not going to be any particular strokes or any particular skills. It's just ask them, what would you like to be able to do with the boat? What would you be able to get? Where would you be able to get it, and what you want to do? And that can be, you know, developed by them as a group or developed by them individually. The participants should be able to active in exploring the paddle sports craft movement. So that means that they should be able to kind of do it in a way where if they want to just learn by having fun and paddling around, they can do that. If they rather than a structured paddle sport or a kind of a stroke session, if it's by games, provided all the safety thing is done before, but if it's by games and learning and experimentation, that's encouraged. It's not necessarily raft up, explain, demonstrate, imitate, correct, and task. And as you do that, the instructors will also explore the concepts of physical literacy of the ABCs of movements and how they relate to paddle sports. So maybe you're talking about, them getting a little bit more into, you know, movements and stretches and things like that, and stuff that will help them maybe off the water. Something like yoga could be linked into that, and that idea of flexibility and core strength can help them to develop what they're doing as a paddler. So this is kind of tied into the fundamentals. The water confidence, instructors should seek to improve the participants' comfort in and or near the water. The participants should be allowed to explore the use of a PFD and how this can assist in developing confidence, and the instructor should help participants to develop a calmness and comfort in a relationship with the water. This one is huge, and in terms of people, especially younger people, when you're operating as an instructor, that barrier of fear around water is something that's absolutely it can be quite a big challenge for people to get over. And a lot of the time it is one of the biggest barriers to people participating in the sport is that idea of what happens if I turn over, what happens if I fall into the water. You've all heard the question, is there sharks in there? It's inland water, you say no, crocodiles, those kind of things where people will ask those questions because they're natural fears. And the idea is that if you can incorporate some kind of development of use of a PFD or buoyancy aid and them getting into the water and understanding that it's there, and maybe make it more incremental before a kayak or a paddle or a paddlecraft is even introduced, that can be something that's a little bit more developed, and that could be named on their module as being a goal. Like, so it might be like, test the buoyancy aid. So the first week or the first session, there's absolutely no mention of a boat or a paddle yet. So safety, instructors should develop the participants' awareness of the risks involved in the water environment relates to paddle sport and how those risks can be managed. Participants should be allowed to explore decision-making progress and the factors that influence good decision-making in the water environment. They should be made aware of the PPE that can aid in the safety of paddle sports participants. And then participants should be allowed to explore how environmental factors may have a bearing on their safety. Examples may be, but not limited to weather, water levels, water temperature. So a little bit about that is a kind of the safety element that goes with kayaking that we'd all teach to all of our learners as we would as instructors. But in this particular, it also is trying to get the people to start to process their own decision making so that they become more empowered and proactive as a paddler, rather than always being group members. So that the idea is that they are also being aware of water levels, water temperature, what to wear, what equipment to use, whether to make a decision making go no go, is it the right day, the right time with the right people. Because ultimately you're trying to make these people not just paddlers that can just work within a group when you're there, but also eventually paddlers that can work outside of that group. And as a lifelong paddle sports participant, if they always need the group, if they always need their original club or something like that, sometimes if people then go out and peer paddle with other people, you've empowered them to do that, which is a good thing. So then in terms of well-being, the participants should be exposed to well-being benefits of paddle sports. Instructors should allow for participants to reflect on well-being indicators and develop understanding of how paddle sports can influence these indicators. So active, responsible, connected, resilient, and respected and aware. And then finally, instructors should create an atmosphere and ethos where participants can be present in the paddle sport experience. This is something that probably everybody knows and feels about in paddle sports, but not really incorporates. Some people do, some people don't. And there's been a lot of good study and research out there in terms of how engaging in nature and how engaging in water sports, or even just being in the outdoors, has a good impact on people's well-being. So I think that if you're open to talking about that with groups and saying, look, do you feel better when you're on the river? Does it allow you to focus on what you're doing there rather than, maybe what you're thinking about back at home? Does it give you a space to think? Does it just make you feel good by exercising? All of these things you can go as as deep as you want, but I'd say probably you just allow the group to see after maybe a while. That might be a something that they might write in after the first few sessions, and it might be like, oh yeah, we weren't thinking about well-being, but after we've been out, we've been chilling and we've lying back in our kayaks and hanging out with the other people in the boats and just listening to the birds. That's something that might come into their outcomes and their aims and underneath one of the headings. Then we have an environment. So environments, instructors should look to develop a relationship with the participant, the environment that surrounds the paddling experience. Instructors should explore and develop connections between participants and the location of the paddle sports experience. And then should make participants aware of how the environment and environmental conditions can be influenced the paddle sports experience. So again, we're pretty lucky that we get to be in the environment and connect with that environment when we're out there paddling and doing paddle sports. But equally, we have to make sure that we're obviously not damaging it, but also we may be able to help. So that could be something either like cleaning up their own area. Boats and kayaks, as we know from the spring cleanups, can really get to a lot of different places and pull, a lot of different refuse out of rivers to keep them clean and good environments. The other thing is that they can also look at the bigger picture in terms of how they, as river users, are able to report certain things which people who don't engage in paddle sports not be aware of, and be good advocates for the environment, both in terms of a wider, maybe community-based, and looking at bigger things such as pollution and the health of the rivers. And also that the instructors can make them aware that they are part of that and they have that unique insight to how water is. Adventure learning. So instructors should develop the people's understanding of adventure with practical experiences and information. Participants should be given the opportunity to engage with their own adventure that is led or facilitated by the instructors. This award does not qualify people to paddle independently, which we mentioned already. It's kind of more so for the if they are it's not a peer award, so they need to paddle other people, depending on what other peer qualification they held on our award system, which is not the Good2Go. So the participants should develop an appreciation of the logistics of adventure and be guided to make good decisions while taking part in adventurous undertakings. So that's about them. If they were to do something like go on a trip or to paddle for a whole day and bring lunch with them, it can be anything they want to do. It can be as big or as small as they wanted. And that the idea that they're again empowered to do as much of that planning and as much of that designing of that experience, so that although they're getting those independence and empowerment in terms of their own knowledge and ability to plan this, is that with the instructor they're allowed to give that and put that in there as adventure learning. So it could be a full day's paddling with lunch and everything else brought with them. It could be a multi-day trip if they wanted to. If they were paddling down the length of the canal with a level 2 instructor, they could do that as well. Okay, so moving on, we are getting into the support part of it, which is basically how to do it, how we do it. So we are basically there's a price to this. It's just the price not so much is not for the program, but it's basically for the certs. So once you sign up as an instructor to run the program, you pay the fee, which enables you just to print as many certs as you want to do this for the entire year, either as the instructor, your name comes in as you're filling out the form. They say, good to go, that's no problem. You guys can fill out your forms, but you actually get the form itself. It'll have your logo, whether that's either a provider or a club, or whichever one you want to have on it. It'll be there, and then as you fill out the certs with the participant, you can then print out as many as you need through the calendar year. So that's basically what we kind of do. Usually in terms of recording the certs as well, so that people can transfer around. If you just make a record of what modules people have done with you, just in case we ever need to check back, hopefully that'll just be either marked on the actual certificate itself on the back, or else it will be something you do as well, just as an instructor, just for the handiness sake. It wouldn't even need to be anything more than just a tick box. So the other thing that we do here is that we provide, with the group, we're going to go into the session plans and some of the actual activities. And I'm just going to have a quick look here now on any kind of Q&A. So we're okay for Q&A, but if anyone has any questions, you could put them in as well, and we can add as well. So I'm just going to basically show the video panel of me back again. Let me go into the full thing. So cool. If people are happy, nothing popping up in terms of questions, I'm just going to go through the session plan. So in this, what we tried to do is to give the session plans and some games and some ideas and some sample examples of where to start. But as we go with this, there has been various different uses for this, in terms of West Cork Kayak Club used this as a test run with their paddlers down there, in terms of their product. I'm trying to remember the name of the group, but with their group down there with the cancer paddling group. And then we had Go Paddle as well down in Wexford as a provider, used it as well for their summer activities with some of the young people that they were working with. And then, as I said, the training centre was using it to do a kind of an engagement with young people who were coming along quite regularly, and they had managed to do a lot of skills work already, and they were kind of just trying to get a little bit more kind of wider selection of what they were doing while they were on the water. So they kind of ended up in the environment thing and cleanups. So session plan. The session plan blank template, it goes into the date, location, start time, it gives you the group type, transport, route description, grade of site, conditions, weather, your risk assessment, which is like what's going to cause you issue, what are the risks, and also on the other side of that, what are your controls, what do you enable to put in to counter those risks as a control that you can actively do, whether it's either something you do with the people, something you do with equipment, something you do with the procedure, or you make yourself aware of the weather. Then you've also got the session plan, which then goes into what are you actually going to do, what the timing you're going to go do, a dice speech on the beach with maybe a little bit of a warm-up. Then you're also going to maybe talk to them about what their objectives are for the day, get a little bit of feedback from them as in how they're feeling about that, jump on the water, and then what are you going to do? Or is it going to be not water-based initially? So that's your session plan. Then it comes into the equipment of what you'll need. You have your notes and your session evaluation. Session evaluation is to kind of look at what went well, not what didn't go well. What would you do differently next time? And the idea of a session evaluation is very much to improve what you're doing so that the next time it runs better, rather than just saying, yeah, we did it, it was great. So moves on to the next one, and you're kind of getting into the session outcomes as well. This blank session template is a slightly different one. This more goes into the session outcomes, into what you're trying to do in terms of developing the actual goals and aims that those people have set within their 6 or 1 or 2 headings. You've got your session outcomes, and like they will be able to do, they will be able to identify, they will be able to list, they will be able to demonstrate by the end of the session. And that might be, something that they have that came from their actual design of their 6 headings, and we've transferred it into the session plan. So that can just be a useful thing. So here's an example of session plan filled out. It gives you through from the Good2Go Participation Award. It has the date, it has the start time, how many hours in the water, youth group, young people's youth group standard beginner, flat water, grade 1, conditions calm, weather, force 2 southwest, temperature 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, overcast, some sunny spells, outlook improving, Irish weather. And then risk assessment, cars and car park, the water's edge, trip hazard, steps to the water, wet floors and change rooms, dice before getting on the water. So they've gone through the important information at the top, and then the session plan is down there. It goes ball juggle, paddling, get into the boats, get on the water. So that follows a kind of a very fundamental kind of kayaking session, but you've got water confidence and then fundamental paddle sport skills. So you're covering 2 of your headings there in terms of outcomes. And then it continues into the plans with games and tasks. So water confidence, leaning forward, moving around the craft. Can you splash? Can you jump on and off? All on board. many people as possible, one kayak class person standing in a kayak, standing up the seat, those kind of things. So you're thinking safety, emotional, and physical, because in terms of these kind of activities, if the water confidence may be high on the list of participants, the chances are that you're going to have to be aware of that if the participants aren't particularly water confident. So what you would say is like, yeah, this is just a normal game you do, could be a huge achievement for someone to actually, fall into the water or something like that. We have a wrap up and you review with the group as well to at the beginning of the session, you front load and say, hey, we're going to think you guys have wanted to do this in your session. These are the outcomes you set for yourself. We go and do the session, which if, at best, they may have even helped to design the idea. And at the end of it, then they review and say, well, hey, how close do we get to those goals? Do we think we hit those outcomes? And if so, what do you want to do differently about next time? How do you want to improve? So it goes to the equipment as well. So you make it active, talk less, move more, let them discover things, let them try things. So if a young person say, hey, is this the right way to make a boat go sideways? You go, I don't know, try it. And once it's safe, let them experiment and do that. So it can be like that. And for adults as well. This is not exactly just for young people, but it is very much for adults as well. So session evaluation. And then we move on to session 2. And again, this runs very similar again. There's the pre-session, so maybe they'll doing a little bit of empowerment where they're actually looking ahead using a weather app or Google to actually figure out what the weather's going to be like. So each time you're trying to step in more independence and empowerment so that they feel that ownership over the experience in the process. So as we move on, again, you're coming down to the second type of session plan, which has the session outcomes that they need to be aware of how their PPA aids them in safety aspects. So that means, what does the helmet do? What does the equipment do? What wetsuits do? These are the things they need to know. Experience different water movements with PPE to increase water confidence. So they will be in the water, moving around with this equipment on and seeing how it affects them. That gives them that kind of confidence. And then to outline the connection points to a craft and their importance. So, for example, they're learning about the transfer of power from a paddle through that kinetic chain into the foot to make their craft move, or to balance their craft through the legs and hips. So, and that would be an example of the further part of that group and the tasks and the outcomes related to it. And then they have to kind of evaluate their confidence. Do they feel proud of what they achieved? Are they keen to move on to the next challenge? Are they displaying more social confidence around the water? So they've kind of come out of their shell. So the idea is that this has that aspect of the development is measured by debriefs, by evaluations with the group, and it is as important as if you're on a standard level 1 course or level 2 course and you're looking for someone to be able to do something, rather than being about skill, it's more about the value of that personal social development within the person. To move on to some more sessions and evaluations, and then we go into Appendix 2. So what we've done here is we've just kind of started off by giving a selection of games and tasks, and then that they can be incorporated into sessions and the awards. Some of these are classics and traditional, and some of them are kind of a little bit more tweaked. So to be a little bit more towards one award like this. So you've got warm-up paddle yoga. It's described there. You've got group sizes as well, kind of ideal in terms of what you need to do, what your resources, what your objectives are. You've got your setup, your tasks, and then what to observe as well, so that you can get a little bit of maybe link it into the outcomes of the award as well. Then we have centipede tag as well. Again, it's given all the different information that you need, how long it takes, and then you've got paddle sport shopping warm up. You've got sponge tag on the water. You got duck bingo. Some of these I've heard of before. Some of these I hadn't heard of until I read some of them in here. Capture the flag as well. So that's something that you might have done as well if you need anything that floats as well. So we can go through a lot of these different exercises and games. There's a few more. There's a sensory connection. So that's maybe about the paddle sports environments, the connection to participant and natural environment. So it's touch, sight, and hearing. And that would be, so you're trying to see that they would listen, how many sounds can they hear, what sounds can they hear, what can you see, what colors can you see. It sounds sometimes might be a little bit difficult, but for certain groups, if that's part of their objective, that's a really good way of trying to get them in connection with nature. And sometimes the activity can be, if you're doing a lot of energetic activities, it can be quite hard, but sometimes asking a group just to be quiet and float can be quite nice. I mean, it can be the start of that discussion, maybe around about well-being or the environment. So the games go on for quite a good bit. And then it comes into the additional resources, which is probably the last part of the award. Um, it kind of comes into a little bit about a little bit of coaching, referencing some websites, some fundamental paddle sports skills as well that are there and that we have as far as right, some of these will be updated as we go along. So when we go to these parts, we'll rather than having them in here, the links are the places that get regularly updated. So as much as possible, this document will stay up to date. If anything does fall off that in terms of those websites, what we'll do is we'll enable to send out this appendix as an update to instructors who are signed up for it. So you've got Water Safety Ireland, and then you have our Canoeing Ireland awards and some safety videos as well that we have. So this is basically this is the award. So I think that's what we're going to do in terms of it's going to start from now. And if people are interested in signing up, they can email myself at development@canoe.ie, and we can start that process of delivery. And if it's something that the club wants or a provider wants a little bit more information, a little bit more of a talk through, we can do that as well. So just in terms of the award, just to remind you that it's it's basically for anyone. It is designed to be as flexible as you possibly would like it to be. It is a participation award that tries to empower the learner as much as possible to get involved in the process of planning, goal setting, and making the session or making that experience in paddle sports their own, for whichever way they'd like it to be. And that really does, I suppose, change it from the standard skill acquisition model which you've had. So it does sit beside the awards. People have asked me in terms of what level it is. We leave that out. It's just your own goal set for yourself. So that's the idea. I hope you've enjoyed the kind of brief tour through it. It's not been particularly long. We've kind of done about half an hour. We thought that was about right for this. So as an update, if people have any questions, as I said, contact myself at development@canoe.ie. So thanks for coming along and engaging.